Boxers are seen as some of the most dangerous people in the world. So naturally when you're in a street fight, you want someone dangerous next to you. But in boxing the styles do vary, so some boxers will do better than others in a street setting. So I've compiled a tier list of boxers from the current landscape in boxing, and we're going to rank them on how good I think they do in a street fight. Just to clarify my definition of a street fight, I don't mean a one-on-one where it's just two people fighting each other separately. I mean there's several people on both sides, it's all chaos, no one knows what's going on. Fists are flying, people are kicking, punching, grabbing. An actual street fight, not a 1v1. With all that being said, let's start off with our first pick, which is going to be Teofimo Lopez. I've put Teo in the very dangerous tier. Just to clarify, this isn't entirely because of their fighting styles or how good they are as fighters. This more or less depends on their weight, how hard they punch, and their personalities. And personality wise, I think Teofimo Lopez would go crazy in a street fight. Think about the way he came out versus George Kambosos. We're not going to be seeing focused, switched on Teo from the Lomachenko fight. I imagine in a street fight Teo would see red and just start throwing massive hooks. And I think that's a positive in a street fight. And obviously because Teo is an absolute nut job, it doesn't matter who he's fighting, it could be a massive 6'9" Ronnie Coleman looking guy. He's going to throw hands. The only thing that puts him a bit further down is that he is a lightweight. He walks around about 150, 155, he's not that big. But if he was a heavyweight, he'd be at the top. Speaking of heavyweights, our next pick is going to be Alexander Usyk. I know it may seem a bit weird to put a heavyweight below a lightweight on a tier list like this, but when we consider the criteria of how well someone does in a street fight, we also have to think about their effect in the fight. How many people do they take down? Usyk doesn't strike me as someone who just throws hands. I think he'd be the most safe in terms of will he survive the street fight, but the list is more about how much damage he does. Usyk is a bit of a slow starter. I can see him circling on the outside when the fight starts. By the time he's warmed up, the fight's over basically. He might get a few jabs in, maybe a straight left to the body, so I can't see him doing that much damage even though he's a heavyweight, so he's in the lower half of the list. Moving up to the may kill someone tier, we have Gervonta Tank Davis. I know the same idea as Usyk may apply to Tank Davis being a slow starter, but Tank strikes me as someone who's had a lot of street fights back in the day, so I think muscle memory would make him throw hands immediately. He didn't waste any time when he attacked his ex-girlfriend at a basketball game, so you know he can turn it on when he wants to. I think vintage Tank Davis from 2017, back when he used to be a bit more aggressive, is the perfect kind of fighter for a street fight. Extremely powerful, aggressive, but also quite calculated at the same time. The reason he's not at the top is because he's very small, which is going to take us to the very top of the list where we're going to talk about Jai Opetaia. A lot of Jai Opetaia fights end up being a massive brawl. He's a big strong cruiserweight, massive power, and he puts a load of force into his left hook. I can see him spamming the punch he landed on Ellis Zorro, and people just go out cold every time he lands it. I can see him getting a bit carried away as well, like the time he knocks out David Naika. Naika was practically out on the ropes, he lands a massive left hand again and puts him out completely. He's got that mean streak you need to be successful in a street fight, which is what puts him at the very top, which is going to take us to the very bottom where we're going to talk about Jack Catterall. Catterall I think would be completely useless in a street fight, that's why he's in the civilian tier. A friend who goes to the gym and lifts weights on occasion may do better than him. As soon as the fight starts, he's going to enter his shell and start turning his back. He wouldn't get knocked out or anything, he'd just do nothing and probably lose on points. Anyway, that's why he's down there. Just a quick reminder to like the video. I've also just started an Instagram page. Do me a favour, go to the description, give me a follow. I'm going to post random fight videos on there, clips from old videos. Also, if I'm ever going to do fighter interviews, I need some followers. My DMs are open, send me a message. Anyway, let's go back to the video. Our next fighter is going to be Artur Beterbiev in the very dangerous tier. Now this may seem a bit ridiculous, but hear me out. As powerful and as scary as Beterbiev is, he's not really a one-punch guy. His specialty is cutting off the ring, making sure someone's on the ropes, and that's where he works his magic. Then he throws several combinations of punches before someone goes down. His hands are also quite slow, his feet are quite slow nowadays. He's probably the scariest fighter to face in a boxing ring, but in a street fight I don't think he's that scary compared to the other people on this list. Which is going to take us further on to Tyson Fury. The thing with Tyson Fury is the only thing he's got going for him in a street fight is his size. Style and power wise, he's not that dangerous really. Obviously this is relative to being a professional boxer. He knocks out anyone without training in a street fight, no question. I just don't see him doing that much damage, to be honest. I think he'd be a massive target. Everyone on the opposing team attacks him first, so the big guy goes down first. Obviously it is a street fight, so someone may tackle him to the ground anyway. I can see this being controversial, but he's up there. Moving a bit further down, we have David Benavidez. Similar situation to Beterbiev, but a lot less powerful. I feel like he'd waste too much time time beating up this one guy, invest into the body landing combinations. Meanwhile, Tank Davis and Jai Opetaia sleep someone and then move on. David definitely has the mentality for it, just not the one punch power, which puts him down there. Moving on a bit further up, we have Anthony Joshua. This is a bit of a weird one because if you're on a night out, you get into a fight with a guy and is built like Joshua, 6'6", massive, big muscles, punches hard. He should naturally be at the top with Jai Opetaia, but I feel like in an actual street fight situation, he'd be too shell-shocked to do what he's supposed to do. If it was Joshua from the Klitschko or the Dillian White fight, he'd be at the top. I feel like nowadays though, if he gets in a street fight and gets hit once, he'd start having Andy Ruiz, Daniel Dubois PTSD and start running away. He's got the size and power for a street fight, but not the personality in my opinion. Which is going to take us a bit further down to Naoya Inoue. Now, while I do think Naoya Inoue is the best boxer in the world, I appreciate he's also 122 pounds. If the street fight was just a bunch of small, malnourished Indian men, but it is a street fight, there's going to be a guy who's 6 foot, 300 pounds who may sit on him. Obviously the same applies to Tank Davis, but to a bit less of an extent because Tank Davis is up there because of his personality mainly. Inoue I think would be a bit more timid. He's a nice Japanese lad, I can't imagine him getting in a street fight, which is what puts him down there. Moving on, next to Tank Davis we have Conor Benn. Listen, say what you want about Conor Benn and his boxing ability, you know for a fact in a street fight he'd be taking people's heads off. He's basically got the boxing style of a street fighter. He's fearless and throws so much force into his punches. He's got a really good chin as well. Even though he's a welterweight, you'd want him on your team. Moving on further down, we have Ryan Garcia. This is a bit of a weird one, and you're going to have to hear me out with my theory on Ryan Garcia in a street fight. If he's able to just stay at mid-range and start picking people off with a left hook, he'd be up there with Tank Davis. But I can imagine anyone bigger than him, a 2v1, or a guy that's just too close to him. I think he'd shit himself a bit like Joshua. Watch the Oscar Duarte fight, he spent almost the entire fight running around. As soon as Duarte got too close, he basically turned his back. The whole silly shell back turning thing in a street fight will not work at all. There are no rules protecting you in that situation. Also the Rolly Romero fight where he threw about 10 punches around. I wouldn't really trust Ryan to be mentally strong enough in a street fight, which is what puts him down there, despite how dangerous he is. Which is going to take us even further down to Devin Haney. I think we all knew this was coming. Devin Haney is the type of guy to clinch in a street fight and expect the ref to break it up, then get so surprised when he gets hit by an elbow. As soon as he leaves the clinch, he starts circling and throwing jabs. He would try his best to win a street fight by decision, which is what puts him down there. Another name you may be expecting alongside Devin Haney is Shakur Stevenson, and that's where he's going to be. Shakur is actually one of the few fighters we actually have street fight footage of. There's a clip of him trying to sucker punch someone, then goes back into attack, throws himself off balance on the floor, then joins in with his friend to beat up this guy who's already on the floor, punches him unanswered several times on the floor with the help of his friend over and over again, keeps trying to hit him on the floor but he doesn't go out. The guy's defenseless on the floor with his back turned, he's still alive. Shakur lands a massive shot and he's still there. Finally puts him out with a final uppercut. Now, not only does this show bitch behaviour by hitting a guy on the ground several times, it took him and his friend about 20 unanswered punches before this random untrained guy could actually go out. And obviously, same as Devin Haney and Jack Catterall, his fight style does not favour a street fight. I think it's self-explanatory why he's in the bottom tier. Moving on up to the middle, we have Canelo Alvarez. Canelo is more or less your average middle-of-the-road fighter in terms of how well they do in a street fight. He's about the same size as your average man. Most Mexican fighters in general just have an advantage by being really tough. I don't think Canelo's style is particularly explosive though, compared to Conor Benn or Tank Davis. Maybe he was back in 2019, but what we saw versus William Skull, I don't think he has quite the natural fighting spirit in him anymore, so he can't go too high on the tier list. Moving on a bit further down, we have Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Same situation as Inoue, he's a better boxer than anyone on this list except Inoue himself and Usyk so far, but he is 115 pounds. I'm not going to put him all the way at the bottom with Devin Haney and Jack Catterall because he does have a bit of fighting spirit in him. He got dropped for the first time by Estrada, laughed, got up and knocks him out in the next round, but obviously again he is 115 pounds. I can also see him doing some stupid stuff, like using his angles in a street fight, doing his setups and feints and pivots. Moving on, we have an interesting case with Nick Ball. Now if Nick Ball was about 6'3", 260 pounds, he'd be number one in this list. Not only does he punch hard, have fast hands and never slows down, he's also tough as hell, very scrappy. Also one of the dirtiest fighters in the sport, he pushes people around a lot. He's got pretty good Muay Thai as well, as seen when he kicks TJ Doney in the leg. So he's got all the makings of a perfect fighter in a street fight. The only issue is he is about 4'11". There is a chance he gets stepped on by accident in the fight. He'd also struggle to land to the head. At most he may be able to reach his opponent's thighs. There's not much damage you can do from that position, and that's why he's down there. Moving on, we have Eduardo Sugar Nunes. He is similar to Tank Davis in the way that he is a short, small man, but he is absolutely packed with muscle, very strong. I can see him putting out big men with one punch. He's got that kind of size-defying power. He's also very scrappy, and that puts him in the very dangerous tier. Moving on, we have Jaron Boots Ennis. I feel like Ennis would find a way to be stuck in between styles in a street fight somehow. Like he'd start off and start jabbing and moving, then realise it's a street fight and that doesn't really work. But then he gets too aggressive and tries to entertain the crowd too much, starts showboating doing that fake slow motion thing, then gets himself hit in the process because there's several people there. I feel like he just wouldn't be focused in a street fight, which is what puts him down there. If someone recorded the fight and put it on YouTube, someone would still be in the comments saying that Boots' defense needs work. It's like a permanent thing in Boots' career. Moving on a bit further up, we have Virgil Ortiz Jr. Even though he's about the same size as Boots, he's always been a bit of an interesting contrast to Boots. Virgil Ortiz just simply knows what to do to get the win. There's no nonsense, no showboating, he gets stuck in and knows what to do. He's a perfect combination of calculation, power and aggression, but I don't think he's got quite the mean streak in him that Conor Benn and Tank Davis do. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't think he'd put full force into his punches. He'd probably go for the liver as well, which is what puts him in the very dangerous tier. Moving on to the very top, we have Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois is basically exactly what you want in a street fight. He's got every physical attribute you'd possibly want in a heavyweight. He's arguably the hardest puncher in boxing at the moment. He's completely fearless. Since the first Usyk fight, it's like he's removed his fear receptors in his brain. He's always coming forward, throwing power blows. He's got really good endurance and durability. The amount of moving he did versus Jarrell Miller and still got the knockout in the final round. The amount of clean punches he took versus Filip Hrgovic in the first round and kept moving forwards. Not to mention he's 6'5", 250 pounds of muscle. I think he is number one on this list. Moving on a bit further down, we have Christian Mbili. Similar situation to Daniel Dubois. He's fearless, throws power blows all the time and doesn't slow down. He is likely the closest thing we have to Mike Tyson in the current day of boxing. You may notice Mike Tyson is on the thumbnail, but he's not on the list. That is for clickbait reasons. There's only current boxers on this list. But you can imagine Tyson will be number one, no question. Ali would be in the middle somewhere near Beterbiev. Foreman would be at the top. Gerald McClellan and Julian Jackson would be in the may kill someone tier. Same with Nigel Benn. I feel like Chris Eubank would be a really good street fighter, but he may be a bit too weird to actually be successful. Like he'd be too distracted observing the form of the other fighters, making weird comments like, "That right hook was stupendous." Anyway, back to Christian Mbili. He's basically a middleweight Mike Tyson. I don't really need to explain anymore, which is going to take us all the way to the bottom with Sonny Edwards. You could probably put Sonny in a tier of his own at the bottom. Not only does he have no power, he's also built like a 12-year-old, and his style is so negative it doesn't fit a street fight whatsoever. It sort of speaks for itself as to why Sonny's down there, which is going to take us further up to Terence Bud Crawford. Crawford is just one of those guys who's got ice in his veins. You hear other boxers talk about how they're going to beat someone up outside the ring, starting on people at press conferences, people like Devin Haney, guys like David Benavidez, Ryan Garcia. If Terence Crawford said he's going to beat someone up outside the ring, I'd actually believe it. He did wrestling in high school as well. He's just a hard guy in general. I'm tempted to put him higher on the list, but when I put a fighter in the top two tiers, I'm looking for either a guy with size or a guy who's really, really scrappy. Crawford is a bit too calculating to see him doing too much damage in a street fight, whereas Tank and Conor Benn would be swinging to take people's heads off, which does matter in a street fight, which is why he's only in the middle. Which is going to take us further up to Martin Bakole at the top. I can see Bakole being an absolute sponge in a street fight. Several people swinging at him at once. He just eats everything. One guy tries to punch him to the body, and his fist gets stuck under Martin Bakole's many rolls of fat. Then the guy gets swallowed by Bakole's belly. Then Bakole gets even bigger. Then he starts swallowing even more people and growing even more in size, until he's the size of a building and he starts swallowing houses. Then eventually engulfs the earth like a game of Agario. I'm getting a bit carried away, but you know what I mean. Bakole is very, very large and he'd punch a lot of people. He's got that sort of Foreman power. For a boxer, he's got ridiculous technique, but that won't matter in a street fight. Moving on in the same tier to another heavyweight, we have Fabio Wardley. Wardley isn't nearly as good as almost everyone on this list, besides maybe Conor Benn, in terms of technical boxing, but Wardley has what a lot of boxers don't have, which is an extra gear to scrap. Wardley simply has that switch in his brain that he can turn on when he starts to lose a fight, where he can just start scrapping, throwing haymakers, out-toughing the other guy. Not to mention he's got a solid chin and devastating power. He quite literally broke Fraser Clark's face with one punch. I can imagine without gloves someone would actually die, which is what puts him at the very top. Moving on to the complete opposite of Fabio Wardley, Dimitri Bivol. Bivol is another one of those guys who'd win a street fight by decision. Unlike Wardley, it's like he's simply not got the extra switch in him to get a knockout. He's so good of a boxer, he doesn't really need to try or to risk it either. If he's winning clearly, he will stay at that pace until the fight's over. And I imagine the same applies in a street fight. I can imagine in a large crowd situation, he'd be circling around, poking people with a jab and then moving away, and then poking someone else with a jab and then moving away, bouncing back and forth, poking people until eventually everyone goes down, because everyone else has done the work. He would cruise in a street fight. Moving on up to very dangerous, we have Emmanuel Navarrete. The whole scrappy thing also applies to Navarrete in this situation. He throws with the technique of a street fighter anyway, so he'd be absolutely fine in that situation. He's also got bricks in his hands, so he'd be throwing these ridiculous wavy inflatable punches and dropping people with them, which is why he's very dangerous. Moving on to someone you may have been waiting for, Deontay Wilder. Unlike Jai Opetaia, Daniel Dubois, Fabio Wardley, I don't think he has quite the scrappy gene that the other guys have. He's also very much past it, but power is the last thing to go. All he has to do is to land on someone's head somewhere without any gloves, and their head might come off. Normally when someone dies in a street fight, it's because their head hits the back of concrete and it causes a concussion or a brain bleed. I think Deontay Wilder, without gloves, could actually make someone die before they hit the ground, and at that point technical skill does not matter. Moving on to our final pick on the list, and it is going to be Claressa Shields. You may be wondering, why is she at the bottom? She is a woman, and every other women's boxer will be in the same place. And that's going to do it for the video. Like and subscribe. Let me know who you disagree with the most. Let me know who you disagree with the least. Leave a comment on the video. Help the algorithm. Help the views. Follow the Instagram. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.